The well goes dry in October. That is the sentence that kills homesteaders in the broad, flat Dakota territory. Not the cold, not the blizzards, not even the hunger. It is that sentence that marks the beginning of the end. When the well goes dry in October, you are already dead. You just do not know it, yet Marta Voss knows it. She stands at the edge of her property on the 3rd of September 1903. Holding an empty bucket, she stares at the hole in the earth that used to give her everything. The rope hangs slack. The well dug by her late husband Henrik has surrendered to the dry summer. The water table has dropped. What trickles at the bottom is brown and smells of iron. Marta is 41. She has wide hands and a habit of measuring things with her unsettling eyes. She has a daughter, 3 milk cows, and $31. She does not have a man. She does not have a working well. And winter is not yet 7 weeks away. She stands there a long moment, then she picks up her splintered digging shovel. Not to deepen the well, that is not what she is planning. Neighbors would not be laughing. Yet she is just a widow in September. Light her face has a veteran's focus. She has decided to pay the cost. Marta has thought about this before turning the problem like a river stone. In Wittenberg, her grandfather kept water using the Tief cooler. The deep cooler, it worked on a principle so old nobody wrote it down. The earth is warm. 12 feet down the ground holds at 38 to 42 degrees. Blizzard or drought, the earth is not cold. It is always the same. If you understand that fact, everything follows from it like water following a slope. She's going to bury a tank not beside her cabin like a man, but 12 feet down, rapid in straw cordwood and clay running pipes from the surface, and the bottom heated by the earth running to a gravitative tap that will never freeze. The neighbors will have opinions. Gunnar Pedersen, a Swede of 60, watches with certainty. He believes widows shouldn't make large decisions alone. Leaning on his fence, he watches her stake dimensions with rope and pegs, calling across the field. Marta, what in heaven's name are you marking out? A tank. She calls back. A tank. He repeats, like a cistern, like a cistern. But deeper, she replies, Marta, you're digging in September. The ground will freeze solid in 6 weeks. I know. When the ground freezes, Gunnar, she drives another wooden peg into the topsoil. Pedersen turns away, muttering Swedish words. She doesn't need to understand to know their meaning. Helga Pedersen tells 3 women at the church social that Marta has finally lost her mind. Meanwhile, Marta digs. She must understand what she is working against. And what she has. She lost Henrik in 1901, typhoid from a railroad crew. But the cold started it in January. The temperature dropped to 51 below zero and stayed for 11 days. Henrik had gone out to break ice on the stock tank every single morning. He returned so cold, he couldn't even unbutton his heavy winter coat. He left her with the land, the cows, the mortgage, and a failing well. The mortgage is $140 held by a bank in Bismarck. If she misses one payment, they take the land and everything. Henrik died for water is the hinge. Without it, there is no milk, no income, and no land. Everything depends on water through winter. Water that flows at 4 to 5 below zero. She has $31. She needs a tank, pipe, insulation, and precious time. She considers options for 3 days, drawing figures on brown paper by lamplight. She cannot afford a manufactured tank. She needs capacity, at least 300 gallons. She realizes on the 4th morning what she needs is a subterranean vault. She rides 7 miles to the Bjornstad farm for flat Dakota limestone. She buys 400 pounds of stone for a $1.60 total. She borrows a stone boat and draft horse to haul the limestone home. The hauling costs nothing because she patches 3 shirts for Carl's wife. The stone will form the walls built with clay mortar and chopped straw, a formula living in her hands from Wittenberg. On the 7th of September, she starts digging the 8x8-foot pit, intending to reach 12 feet deep into the subsoil. After 3 feet of topsoil, she hits the heavy gray clay subsoil that fights every stroke with sullen, heavy resistance. 5 feet down, she has shifted 2 tons of earth. Her hands are now covered in permanent leather-like healed blisters. On the 3rd morning, Britta appears at the pit's edge with a small, flat garden spade to help her mother. They don't speak. Mother and daughter move dirt together, a silent, shared rhythm in the cooling October air. In the evenings, Marta shows Britta the charcoal drawings on crinkled brown paper, explaining the plans in their native German. Britta traces the pipe lines with one finger, nodding slowly as she begins to understand her mother's desperate, ingenious vision. Like the earth is a blanket. Britta says, exactly like that. Marta Voss replies softly. The second setback comes at 8 feet. they hit a dense, compacted ledge of hardpan. Marta spends 2 days with a steel bar, and hammer her arms numb with vibration. The ledge is 14 inches thick. Costing 2 days and chipping her steel pry bar below the hardpan, the earth loosens. By September 17th. She reaches 11 feet deep. She hits the first seep, a slow welling of dark, cold, clean groundwater. Marta stands in the hole and laughs. Britta, looking down, catches the rare sound. There is water here. It is fed by a seam that runs under half the county. She has struck something better than she planned. Now the mockery gets loud. Words spread through the township, the way it always does in flat country where there is nothing but empty grass. 3 men from the grain cooperative ride past her property, stopping their horses at her weathered wooden fence. One is a large man named Driscoll, who owns the biggest spread in the county and has opinions. Marta Voss. Driscoll says from his horse, "I hear you've dug yourself a well grave out there." "Water vault," she says without looking up from mortaring the flat Dakota limestone water vault. He says it with amusement. In Dakota, where things freeze on the surface. Marta says down here they don't miss. Voss. Burying it with rocks is fool's work. By a cistern and line it with straw. I considered that it freezes. Ask Helgerson. He lost his cistern in February 1899. Driscoll shifts in his saddle. Helgerson didn't pack it right, he mutters. Helgerson packed it the way everyone packs them. She says, "I'm doing something different." Driscoll shakes his head. Slowly, with a sorrow that is almost theatrical, come the first real cold. That whole contraption will be a solid block. You've spent your last dollar on a stone-lined coffin for your water. He rides away. One of the others glances back with pity. Pedersen comes by that evening, standing with his hat in his hands. "Marta, I asked men who know even deep cisterns freeze in January. The cold goes down 7 feet. That pipe is going to freeze." The pipe runs through an insulated sleeve packed with horse dung straw clay, and a second pipe create an air gap for insulation. I'm running it at a 40-degree pitched. Lose less heat. Pedersen stares. The earth at 12 feet is 39 degrees of buffer. The pipe stays above 32. Where did you learn that? My grandfather and my arithmetic. Pedersen leaves with the expression of a man out of arguments. The closest thing to respect. She will get the money. Runs out on the 1st of October, leaving her with exactly $12.60. Since vault walls are 4 feet high, the floor mortared with clay and straw, seep water pooling at the bottom. She spent $19.40 on limestone sandpipe and oakum to seal the joints. She still needs roof planking, a hand pump, and the forged iron cover to seal the vault. Marta rides to the bank in Bismarck to talk to Whitfield, a man devoid of sympathy. She shows him the drawings on brown paper explaining the aquifer seep at 11 feet. Whitfield calls it unconventional. Marta argues the bank's risk in losing a mortgaged property to foreclosure. Whitfield approves $35 for the water vault, a crucial victory against the looming freeze. Marta rides home with the bank draft in her pocket. She spends 4 days in Sturgis acquiring her survival supplies. The used cast iron hand pump costs $11. 8-inch heavy wood planking for the roof costs $7. Blacksmith fabricated iron cover with leather hinges costs $8. Remaining money goes to fittings, oakum, and heavy burlap. Now she needs help that her money cannot buy. Lars Nilsson, 22, and enormously strong, arrives at her fence, a hired hand walking south looking for winter work. She offers board and meals for his labor through October. He looks at the pit and says yes without questions. Lars is enormously strong and willing. They lower cast iron pipes, fitting the elbow sealing joints with oakum and clay mortar. The pipe sleeve salvaged tin horse dung straw and burlap. The sleeve runs through a 40-degree channel toward the surface, working by lantern light on the heavy wood plank roof, adding layers of clay burlap and 12 inches of earth. 18-inch square access shaft with a forged iron cover. When closed, the vault cover is invisible against the prairie. Lars develops pride in the project, calling it the machine. He adds a gravel filter and a small clay plug checking hole work. Finishes on the 28th of October. Marta stands in fading light, her hands black with clay, and her back aching with the pump handle installed, and pipes sealed. The vault below now holds 400 gallons of steady aquifer water. Marta pumps the handle clean. 38-degree water flows. It is cold, clean, and tastes of the deep Dakota earth. Lars says that's something they stand together in silence as the October sun dips below the flat prairie horizon. The next morning, she pumps a full bucket beside the road. She nods at Driscoll as he rides past Helga Pedersen visits that afternoon. She hopes the vault works mentioning a mid-November storm is coming. Marta watches the signs, early ice clouds, geese moving south, and horses growing thick winter coats. She packs straw bales 3 deep. Against the base of the rustic wood cabin, she banks the barn floor with a straw and manure mixture to keep temperatures elevated. Marta cords 2 full walls of firewood under the eave extension. Preparing for the freeze inside the cabin, she fills every container with water from the new subterranean pump. She probes the pipe sleeve with a long wire checking for voids in the insulation. 12th of November, the sky turns a bruised color, not quite green, not quite yellow, organizing itself to the northwest. At noon, the temperature is 11 above zero. By evening, it is 4. By midnight, the wind begins its argument. It arrives like an argument, starting quietly, first 20 miles an hour, then 40, a continuous roaring. By 2, Marta is awake. She has built a pallet for Britta 12 inches. Off the floor in the warmest corner, Britta is bundled in every blanket, while Marta feeds the stove hard on dry oak through the night. The cabin holds 52 degrees outside by the north wall barn. Gauge it is 16 below and falling. Marta thinks of her neighbor's Driscoll's surface tank losing heat to the wind, and the Pedersen's shallow, well-packed only with straw. By dawn, the temperature is 27 below zero. The wind has not relented, turning the prairie into a white void. Marta pushes through 3-foot drifts, gripping the guide rope. She remembers the man found frozen 20 feet from his door inside the barn. The cows are frightened, but alive. She cross-eyes Ingrid, the oldest, preparing for the morning chores. She walks back to the pump. The handle moves. 38-degree water flows as if the earth ignores the sky. At 12 feet down, it is always autumn. The earth does not know what the sky is doing to the world. Marta fills stock buckets and carries them to the cows. She is on her way. Back when the wind shifts at 7:30 on the second day, the wind shifts suddenly. It nearly kills her where she stands. A wind shift means the blizzard is settling, finding its feet, preparing to stay. The shift hits the stovepipe corner, sucking the draft the wrong way. The fire belches a coil of black smoke, fills the cabin in 3 breaths. Marta lunges for the stove, ripping the damper open with her bare hand. She drags Britta to the floor below the thick smoke layer. She cracks the window on the downwind side to vent the smoke. Cold air hits the supply pipe junction at the floor and condenses. A line of frost 1/2 inch thick forms on the pipe during her time at the barn, and the smoke emergency, a draft from an imperfect seal, has let frost climb the pipe. If the frost reaches the wall, it enters the insulated sleeve, wicking up the pipe beyond the point of any recovery. With smoke in her lungs and Britta coughing, Marta stands in 31 below zero winds and begins her desperate calculation. She has 2 hours before the frost hits. The fix requires digging through 3-foot drifts in skin-freezing conditions. An alternate fix, heating the pipe, risks burning the cabin floor. A danger she cannot face with her daughter. Present the third option. Lars's secondary access shaft allows her to check the pipe from above. Packing the channel with hot stove ash will drive the frost back to the earth's warmth. She bundles Britta in every piece of outerwear, tying a scarf around her face. Marta shovels glowing ash into the iron laundry pot and hands it to Britta. Hold this. Both hands, don't drop it. Marta commands her steady daughter. They step out into 31 below zero and 42-mile-per-hour winds. Marta digs through drifts with bare hands to find the iron cover. Ring her fingers go numb as she clears snow to open the plug channel. She takes the iron pot from Britta, packing glowing ash into the clay plug channel. With a stick the heat goes in. She repacks the channel with clay, seals it, and they run back inside. She stands unable to feel her hands, listening to the wind scream at the roof. She touches the frost line at the floor junction. It has stopped growing. She watches. The frost begins to sublimate. A slight dulling at the edges. Something warm is working. She sits on the floor. Britta sits beside her. The frost is gone. By noon, at 10:30, she hears Gunnar Pedersen's voice outside in the storm. She finds him in 32 below zero, his magnificent mustache frosted white and frozen. My well pipe froze last night around 3 in the morning. Come in, she says. Gunnar sits at her table drinking hot coffee. In silence, his weathered face etched with the cold, he speaks with careful precision. The animals need water. 6 cattle, 8 sheep. Marta calculates 400 gallons in the vault, fed by a continuous seep. Bring them over, she says, refusing payment with a steady gaze. Thursday afternoon, the storm peaks at 4 to 5 below zero. the wind vibrates her. Moeller she worries for the Frey homestead, but cannot move in this storm, but the pump works at 4 to 5 below this fact. She will always remember the difference is 83 degrees the aquifer below. Doesn't know the sky is insane. Driscoll arrives on the third morning. His heating coil failed overnight. The expression on his face is that of a man who has thrown away his speech. Mrs. Voss, I have 23 head of cattle without water. She looks at him. I was wrong, he says simply. She nods once. Bring them over the tank, can handle it. Friday morning. The storm breaks. The wind suddenly drops away. At 31 below it is a still crystalline cold. Marta stands outside and surveys the damage across the county. The Pedersen barn lost a wall. Sheep dug out hypothermic. The Frey homestead lost water. Carl nearly died seeking help. Driscoll's system is solid ice. He loses no cattle here. Marta's cabin is intact. Her cows never missed a watering, and the pump is still working at 31 below zero. Still pulling up 38-degree water, pulling from a vault. The blizzard could not touch 12 feet below the reach of cold. Young Lars stands with Marta beside the pump on Friday morning looking on. In silence, Lars says, I want to learn how you knew. Marta pumps the handle again. I didn't know. She says, I understood. Knowing is what Driscoll had. Understanding is starting from what the earth actually is and working forward. By November's end, Pedersen sits at her table, studying the brown paper drawings. He asks about pipe angles, clay mortar formulas, and the gravel filter layer. You could have told us this in September. I tried. Marta says simply. Something settles in his face. I reckon I did most of the not listening. The Frey couple comes in late November. Anna looks at the pump. We want to build one in spring. Come in spring. I will show you. Driscoll sends a letter asking for vault dimensions and the pipe sleeve formula. She writes the dimensions in a fair hand, sending them back without comment. Britta, 9 years old, brings coffee and listens, filing things away for the future. Marta thinks of the storm when the work is done, and the lamp is low. The December night is a deep cold, but the pump is working, and wood is stacked. She remembers the morning with the pot of glowing ash 11 feet between her and failure. Not triumph, but the feeling of a thing holding that was built to hold. Grandfather said the earth doesn't hate you. The cold, hunger, and wind hate you. Go deep into what simply is to find the layer that doesn't change. Build on that layer, and you have built on something that will not move. She had not known what her grandfather meant then. Back in Wittenberg, she had been too young and too warm to understand. On the coldest night of 1904, the 8th of February, 51 below zero, Marta goes out at midnight to the pump. She pulls the handle, and the water comes 38 degrees unchanged. Patient, as if it had known the answer all winter. She goes back inside, adds wood to the stove, and checks on Britta in the warm Orangimber sanctuary. The pump waits in the dark, doing the only thing it has ever done, holding the line for the homestead. Marta didn't defeat the cold. She found the place it could not reach, and she built her life there. The place is always there. It only asks how far down you are willing to dig.